Hello chess lovers and welcome to Chess Insight. In this video, we're going to talk about the basic principles of chess. Before we actually start playing, it's really important to understand these principles. Knowing the fundamentals of chess helps us grasp the key strategies and tactics that make all the difference in the game. It allows us to build a strong position, make our pieces more effective, and gain better control of the board. These principles also prepare us to deal with different situations in a game and to make stronger decisions during play. So, let's start with the very first principle: control the center. If you can control the center squares, then you can control the game. You might have heard that it's crucial to fight for the center and develop your pieces toward the middle as quickly as possible. But what exactly does that mean? The central squares are e4, d4, d5, and e5. These are far more important to control than the squares on the edges of the board. One of the most popular and strongest opening moves for white is to push the pawn to e4. By placing the pawn directly in the center, white immediately controls the d5 and f5 squares in black's territory, while also opening lines for both the bishop and the queen to enter the game quickly. A good response for black is to play the same move, the pawn to e5. By doing this, both sides are contesting the center, preventing the opponent's pieces from easily advancing into their half of the board. Now you might be wondering, is the center really that important to control? What happens if instead of pushing a central pawn, you push a pawn on the edge of the board, say, pawn to a6? Let's take a look at an example. When white plays pawn to e4, white controls d5 and f5 while also opening pathways for the queen and bishop. Meanwhile, if black plays pawn to a6, this move does nothing to contest the center. All it really does is make room for the rook to step onto a7, which isn't useful at all. In other words, black is simply wasting time. And if you ever face an opponent who plays like this, the best response is to immediately grab the center with pawn to d4. Now, white has a strong pawn duo controlling the critical dark and light squares in black's camp: c5, d5, e5, and f5. This makes it much harder for black to develop pieces onto those squares. If black continues to make meaningless pawn moves, like pushing pawn to h6, then black simply has no control over the center. Other than moving the knights, there's almost nothing productive for black to do, and that's a terrible start to the game. Meanwhile, white has opened lines for the queen and bishop to join the fight. The white knights are also ready to join the team fight by jumping to f3 or c3. If black tries to develop pieces without having any grip on the center, black will quickly find themselves in trouble. For example, let's say black develops the knight to c6. Without a pawn supporting the center, black's knight becomes a target. White can simply push pawn to d5, attacking the knight and forcing it to retreat back to b8. And if black tries to avoid losing time by moving the knight to a5, that's even worse. In the early game, a knight on the edge is very weak. On a5, the knight controls only 4 squares: b3, c4, c6, and b7. Compare that to the white knight sitting on f3. That knight controls 8 different squares, literally twice as many. Not only that, the knight on a5 has no safe squares to retreat to, so white can simply push pawn to b4 and the knight is doomed. This perfectly shows why controlling the center is so important. Now let's move on to the second principle: develop your pieces. In chess, it's vital to bring your pieces out to safe and active squares. Let's go back to the most popular opening, pawn to e4, which controls d5 and f5. Usually black responds with pawn to e5, controlling d4 and f4 on white's side. The most common follow-up is knight to f3. This not only develops a piece, but also puts pressure on black's pawn at e5. Typically, black replies with knight to c6, which also develops toward the center and defends the pawn. But what if black instead pushes pawn to d6 to reinforce the pawn on e5? This move isn't a complete blunder, but it isn't the best either. Yes, the pawn on d6 supports e5, but it also blocks in black's dark-squared bishop. That bishop becomes much less active, making black's setup a bit passive. Meanwhile, white can easily continue with bishop to c4, strengthening control over the center and immediately eyeing the weak f7 square. Now imagine if black tries to develop the knight on the b file, but instead of placing it in the center, moves it to a6. Sure, the knight is developed, but it's in the wrong place. It only controls 4 squares, and none of them are central squares. Compare that to the knight on c6. It's right in the middle of the action, controlling 8 squares, including 2 central ones. What about moving the other knight to d7? At first it looks okay, but this knight only influences a single central square, e5. Plus, it blocks the light-squared bishop, which now struggles to get into the game. That bishop will need extra moves just to become active. So let's say white continues naturally with knight to c3. If black once again tries knight to d7, that would be a mistake. Notice how both of black's bishops are now locked in. This means the knight will have to move again later just to make room for them, which wastes more time. In this position, white can already launch an attack with knight to g5. Look at how white's pieces coordinate. The knight on g5 teams up with the light-squared bishop to target black's weak f7 pawn, which is only defended by the king. At the same time, the knight on c3 and the pawn on e4 work together to dominate the d5 square. Alright, let's move to the third principle. Protect your king. In chess, you can lose your queen, your rooks, or even several pieces and still have a chance to win. But if you lose your king, the game is over. That's why protecting your king is absolutely essential. The most common and effective way to safeguard your king is by castling. Let's set up a common example. Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5. In just 3 moves, white already has a pawn in the center, a knight, and a bishop developed toward the middle. And as we said earlier, protecting your king is top priority. There's no such thing as castling too early. So here, white castles short. You can think of castling like building a house for your king. The king is now safe behind 3 pawns, making it difficult for the opponent to break through. Plus, castling brings the rook closer to the center, where it can actually take part in the game. Playing as black, you can do the same. Develop the knight to f6, add pressure on the e4 pawn, and prepare to castle short yourself. At this point, white usually defends the pawn with pawn to d3, which also clears the way for the bishop. But why exactly is castling so important? Because the strategy in the opening revolves around controlling the center and activating pieces for a central fight. And if most of the action happens in the middle of the board, then leaving your king exposed there is the worst thing you can do. The king becomes a sitting target. Here's a classic example. White has already castled while black has delayed. The black king is stuck in the center on a wide open file. White can launch an attack right away with queen to e2, delivering check. Black tries to block with bishop to e4, but then white simply captures the bishop with check. Black covers again with the queen, but white trades queens. And now it's checkmate. Let's look at one more example. Sometimes, even when you try to castle early, things don't go as planned. And that's okay. It happens to everyone. What matters most is not dwelling on what went wrong, but focusing on what you can do right now. Here, white has lost a pawn, and black is threatening the rook on h1. The white king is still stuck in the middle, while black has already castled short. So, what should white do? How can white both save the rook and bring the king to safety? Yes, that's right. The answer is to castle long. By castling on the queen side, white has moved the king out of danger and at the same time connected both rooks so they defend each other. Sure, white's position still isn't perfect, but it's a lot better than before, and the king is finally safe. That's it for the first part of our chess principles. Remember, the game is all about protecting your king while building strong positions. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next chess video.